Saincheist Barda Naomh Monica in hOllscoile in Ospidéal hOllscoile na Gaillimh. Tá sé dúnta inis le beagnach tríomhí agus gan focail as an Ospidéal maidir le cén fá go raibh sé dúnta, fiú go raibh sé dúnta. Bhí orm an cheiste Ospidéal, caiicí seo hin, tá mé fósaigh fannach le freigra ón ara, fuair mé freigra ón Ospidéal. Seachtain tar éis mo ceistin a bheith cara agam, ceistin a bunúsacha, cén fá go raibh an Barda dúnta, cén uair a bhaid sé oscailte a rís, cad margheall nach chothair an ceistas tábhachtaí. Agus seo fiche dó, agus calú Savita Panavár 2012. Tá strátais mórachas agan, strátais náisiúnta, agus tá muid ag déanamh beagas fiú den strátais sin. Minister, I'm here today having to raise Monica's ward in Galway. And I heard that it was closed for 3 weeks, and I decided to write to the management and ask them some basic questions. When did it close? Why was it closed? When was it going to be open? And most importantly, the implications for the patients on the main gynecology ward in the University Hospital, which serves approximately 1 million people from Donegal down to Galway, and I know you're very familiar with it. As you know, Savita Panavár died in 2012, arising from her death and many other deaths of women, and it's significant up to when Deputy Brown came into the chamber that all of the representatives here today are female, and it's of concern to all of us as well as the male members. And this was never to happen again, and so we had a national maternity strategy. And here we have the main ward closed, and so when I get some answers, I find out it's closed since March. Were you aware of that, Minister? You can answer maybe later. The Minister certainly wasn't aware of that, and people in Galway weren't aware of it. And people are telling TDs, as you well know, at their peril. They're actually absolutely terrified that something might happen to them. I talk about whistleblowers when they actually make basic facts known to us. So the main guy, so I find out then, to my horror, that it's closed since the 23rd of March. I'm told that it won't be reopening, but they don't put it like that. They give me no date because they have no staff. They don't tell me what staff they don't have, and they don't tell me what they have done in anticipation of having no staff back in March or what they've done since. They tell me there are no consequences. There are no consequences. So that begs the question why the ward was necessary in the first place, if there are absolutely no consequences when you close it. And so let me just put that in perspective, and the person has given me permission. I won't use their name. I heard you on the local radio. I was so upset to hear that the health executive had told you that the closure of the main ward in UHG had no impact. And let me tell you the story. Very short, 4 lines. She gives her name. She says she had an operation elsewhere. She took ill at home, was brought by ambulance to UHG. The harrowing scenes we then witnessed in the emergency surgical ward unit were beyond distressing. I waited 3 nights on a trolley after major surgery before I was given a bed in St Angela's, which is one of the 2 wards identified while Monica's is closed. Every day I heard that we'll have a bed for you. I was admitted on Tuesday at 1:30 a.m. and didn't get a bed until Friday at 6:30 p.m. Now, it's unusual for me to read out something, but when I was trying to digest the answer and see where the meaning was, that really just brought it home, that this is a spin and unacceptable, and this is a reality. And I spoke to that person, and she said she witnessed patients on the ground with a blanket over them. Now, I leave it with you, Minister, to answer me.
I'll get Chocta. Ara.
Thank you, Chair. And I want to thank Deputy Connolly for raising this question. And it's not the first time you've raised it on the floor here. And I also myself heard you talk about it locally. So, as you have said, St Monica's Ward, University Hospital Galway, was temporarily closed on the 23rd of March this year. But I am pleased to report that the ward has reopened. It reopened on the 13th of June. And I would like to reassure the Deputy that during this time, all gynaecological patients were cared for in St Angela's ward. We are aware of that. Experienced staff from Monica's ward provided care to the women on St Angela's ward. In addition, women who experience a fetal loss were cared for on St Catherine's neonatal ward by experienced midwives. No gynecological surgeries were cancelled due to the ward closure or bed capacity during that time. So, I suppose, to answer your question, was I aware it was closed initially? No, I wasn't. Now I'm telling you that it is opened as of the 13th of June. Also, in the answer that I have here, which you have as well, Deputy Connolly, there is no reason as to why that ward closed, so I cannot answer that question that you have asked me. But as part of the Saincheist Health Care Group, University Hospital University Hospital Galway is the Saincheist Model 4 hospital, delivering 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, emergency medicine, acute surgical critical care. And it is one of the major teaching hospitals partnered with INUI Galway. In relation to University Hospital Galway, specifically since 2018, 3.1 million funding has been provided for additional staff for women's health services, and the government is committed to promoting and improving women's health outcome. And it was only this morning I read in our local paper about the menopause clinic that will be is one of the 4 sites and will be opening later on this year in September. So the HSE's National Women's and Infants Health Programme has developed an ambulatory gynecological model of care which centres on the establishment of a one-stop see and treat ambulatory gynecological clinics. The development of these clinics will help to improve access to gynecological services, reduce the requirement of multi-gynecological appointments and ensure sustainability of service provision into the future, and important, will help improve clinical outcomes. And it is estimated that approximately 70% of general gynecological referrals are suitable for management in this setting. So the rollout of this new model of care began in 2020, and at present 9 of these clinics are operational, including the one at University Hospital Galway. And in conclusion, I would like to confirm that St Monica's ward has reopened and the patients has provided with care and other wards in the hospital. I apologise that Minister Donnelly isn't here himself to answer the question, but at the same time he has taken on board what you have raised here. He has asked questions in relation to it, and I am glad to see that the outcome is that this ward is up and operational again.
Thank you, Minister.
Thank you, Minister. And I don't know really. They open again. How many beds have reopened? How many beds are in St Monica's? Have they told you that? Okay. So we're here today. I think it's 17. I think it's 19. I'm not sure. And they've given you an answer simply because I raised it in the Dáil, like other TDs do. I have no reply from the Minister. I know he's very busy. I know exactly how busy you are, and I pay tribute to your work all the time. But this is the most serious situation. This is spin on spin. If the ward was closed because of lack of staff, I welcome that it's reopened. How did it suddenly reopen? Where did they procure the staff from? Where did they get them from? Why did they have to close it in the first place? Speaking of communications earlier on in the previous topical, I understand the communications unit had absolutely no idea that Monica's ward was closed since March. I didn't know it was closed. The person who told me, and as I said, in great fear, thought it was closed 3 weeks. So it was closed since March. Nobody was going to tell us that. It wasn't going to reopen on whichever date you gave us, and we don't know have all the beds reopened at all. Now, I find really, as a woman, as a female TD, but particularly having read all of the reports, Portiuncula in relation to the series of deaths and long-term consequences of practices in Portiuncula. I've read the Portlaoise report, Savita Halapanavar, all of the reports. And here we are, 2 years ago, I was obliged to bring a motion before the Dáil for the implementation of the strategy, following on HIQA's condemnation. I'll take the word back because they're not inclined to condemn, but they had serious concerns in relation to the failure to implement the National Maternity Strategy more than halfway through its term. So the last thing I want, and you don't do it, Minister, is spin. And certainly last week or 2 weeks ago when I raised it, I get all the good things. I'm not here. I read the strategies. I don't need to be told these things. What I'm here is to highlight an unacceptable situation, disingenuous communications, and the most serious consequences for women. And a pretense that they're being treated, in other words, which are at capacity. I visited someone in hospital a few weeks ago. There were 17 people, men and women, in various stages of distress, undress, and the nurses run ragged. There's something seriously wrong with our model in Galway Hospital generally, but I'll stick to the point today, and I'm a few seconds over time. My apologies.
Thank you, Chair, again, and thank you, Deputy. Yeah, you are right. It is unacceptable that a ward would be closed and we wouldn't be communicated about it or to know how many was closed. I do not know today how many of those beds, other than I'm told the ward is opened, but I will find out for you, Deputy. When we talk about spin and everything else like that, all I do know is that Minister Donnelly takes this role very, very seriously. So much so he did a surprise visit through the A&E in Galway Hospital last Thursday night week. He walked right through it unannounced because he doesn't want to see, he wants to see it operationally, as you and I hear about on a daily basis from our constituents. And I have to thank him for giving that flying visit unannounced to actually see what our A&E is like. Because you are right, it is one of the issues that takes over our headlines on a regular basis, the A&E and the actual women's maternity side of the hospital. I'm glad to see that the ward is opened, but I will be twice as happy when I know that it's open to full capacity, because we cannot, people entering the gynecological side of Galway Hospital, they're going there for various reasons, and there's various levels of trauma that which we need to protect each woman that is passing through it, whether it's a woman that is getting the good news that she's pregnant, or whether she's in for a 12-week scan, or it's a lady that could be actually experiencing a loss of a baby, or other ladies that have gone in for many other issues. So we need to ensure that it works, and it works to maximising the support of the women that are entering it there. So I will get you the answer, Deputy. Is it open to full capacity?